today's video. It's day 4 of the 30-day April vlog challenge that I'm doing. So today's topic is going to be about homeschooling. I have homeschooled my son since the 2nd grade, and he's in 7th grade now, so we've been doing it for a while. And I found some top questions about homeschooling that some people have asked me, or which is a lot of homeschoolers get, and I was thinking, well, I'll go ahead and cover some of the questions that some people might be curious about homeschooling. The first question I usually get is, why do you homeschool? And I think some people ask that with the assumption they already think they know, like, I don't want my son indoctrinated. That's not true. We're not that kind of family. I homeschool because the school, my son was actually failing and they weren't really doing anything about it. The attitude was, well, the no child left behind, and they were just sort of pushing him through. But in the meantime, like, if you push a child through and they're not learning some of the things that they need to be learning, then it just makes it more and more difficult for them as they get older, as they're still expected to do things. You know what I mean? So I wanted help for him, and the only help I was getting was basically take him to a therapist and have him diagnosed with ADD, which, not surprisingly, they did. And I'm not saying that ADD or ADHD doesn't exist, but I can say with certainty it is overdiagnosed. So rather than give my son medication and stuff, which was the only option the school gave me, I decided I would homeschool. Now, how do you get started? Okay, every state is different. It's different with the public schools as well. So a homeschooler from West Virginia is going to be different than a homeschooler from Maryland or Pennsylvania or New York. You know, we all have different rules. In fact, I found out like the other day, somebody from Rhode Island told me, I guess they get textbooks. I'm like, you get textbooks? We get nothing. Some states even allow homeschoolers to join an extracurricular activity or join in the parties and stuff. Again, not here in Maryland. But how do you get started? You get started by writing a letter of intent to the Board of Education, basically stating that you're going to be pulling your child or children out to homeschool them. Once you get confirmation, there's a 2-week period where they stay in school, and then you can pull them out, and now you're on your own. There are 2 choices that you must pick, which is you can sign up for a charter school, which they generally cost money, or, now this is the state of Maryland, not every state has this, or you agree to have a portfolio reviewed twice a year. So I have to compile a portfolio. That's what we went. We went with the Board of Education, and they look at our portfolio to see if what he's learning, how he's learning, things like that. So we are basically reviewed twice a year, and that's how you get started. Okay, what makes you think you are qualified? Well, I'm a relatively intelligent woman, and I graduated high school, so I think I can at least teach high school. I actually did go to college to be a teacher, and a lot of what I was learning was how to wrangle a room full of children, which I don't have. I have one son. And what you don't know, you find out, or you supplement your homeschooling. Like if I had trouble with, say, learning chemistry, I would sign my son up for a class. It's more of like the end product, I think, is what matters here. So if we failed the portfolio review, then we have 30 days to correct it, and if then we fail again, then he goes back to school. That's never happened. So do you take tests? No. It's optional here in Maryland. Some states do have standardized tests. I believe Pennsylvania has, you have to take yearly tests. Here it's optional, and I've decided no, and the reason being is because the school doesn't provide me with curriculum. A lot of these schools are teaching to the test, and since I get nothing from the school, I don't feel like I should have to have my son tested. But I do download previous year's tests, and we use those for worksheets. So my son is following along with what his grade level should be learning, and we are familiar with what is required for that grade. So we just don't have an official grade on the books, I guess. Okay, what kind of things do you teach? I teach reading, spelling, grammar, mathematics, science, social studies, which includes geography, world history, American history. I teach Spanish and sign language, living skills, library, media, and technology. Some of those things are optional, but I feel it's important that my son, learn those things. Do we learn them every day? No. And he wasn't doing that in school either. There were certain days of the week he was learning certain things. So I don't even think he had gym every day. In fact, we go to a gym for his gym. Okay, number 6. Won't your son miss out on the things like prom and parties? I don't think he'd go, even if he was in school. Every year I ask him if he wants to go back to school, so he always has that option. And I've told him that when he goes into high school, I would like him to at least, try to go back, because it might work out, might not. And if it doesn't, then I'll just homeschool him. It's not a big deal. But missing out things like prom and stuff, like I went to public school, but because I moved for my senior year and I never made any friends or anything, I didn't go to my prom. I didn't even want to go to my graduation. It was like the third high school that I went to, and I was not, I didn't have friends. And I can honestly say I didn't miss out on anything because it would have been nothing to me. Now my son, also being a homeschooler, in this area we have large enough groups that they do have prom and they do have dances and get-togethers and stuff like that. There's a huge community in this area. So that kind of leads to the next question. How will your son be socialized? I think people don't understand what the word socialization means. Socialization means you're learning the norms of society. And being stuck in a class with kids of all the same age isn't doing that. So my son is socialized in the sense, like he has the Scouts, so he has other kids to play with, but we've also joined in co-ops with the homeschool group, and we can go out into the world to do things, and we go to museums and field trips and things like that. So socialization is not a problem for a homeschooler. It's maybe if you don't get out enough, I suppose. Number 8, do homeschoolers get into college? Yes. There's colleges that even kind of look for homeschoolers because homeschoolers they're kind of perceived as more self-reliant, and they understand the value of self-learning, self-teaching, and responsibility with education. Now that's not true for everybody, but I understand that's kind of like the belief behind it. How long do you homeschool? I think with this question they're asking like how either the school year or the day. Now we get started around noon because my son sleeps in and I sleep in, and I teach him from 3 to 4 in the afternoon. Now some people might say like, wow, that's not very long. Well, we learn homeschool year round. I think last year was the first summer we took off, and that was because I was burned out. I was like, I need a summer off. So and with the summer, I generally focus on whatever his weaknesses are in his education. Like if he's behind in reading, then we'll focus on reading. And if he's behind in science, then we focus on that. And we can spend all that time doing that. The last question would be, is homeschooling better than public school? And I think this is a trick question because I think people expect me to say homeschooling's better. And I would say not necessarily. If your kid is doing fine in public school, by all means, take advantage of the public school. It's probably cheaper and it's more organized, and some kids do very well in that environment. However, if your student is not doing well in public school, they're not learning, they're being bullied, they're having problems and stuff, then homeschooling should be a viable option. I don't think you can even consider homeschool as you have to pick one or the other. I have met homeschoolers where every year they ask the kids, do you want to go back to school? And sometimes they did. I knew one mother where she had 3 kids, and she had 1 in public school and 2 homeschooled. And then I met another mother where she had a child where he had gone last year to public school, but then this year he was being homeschooled, and she wasn't sure what he was going to do the next year. So you don't have to pick one or the other. And you could even pick like in the middle of the year, like public school's not working out for the year, you homeschool for the rest of the year, and then you go to school next year. I mean, you have to kind of think outside the box, as it were. So if you have any more questions about homeschooling, I can only answer for the state of Maryland. As I've stated previously, it's state by state. But if you have any questions, please leave them comments, and I will follow this up with maybe another one. As always, thanks for watching.